All-out war in Gaza. The prophet Isaiah once expressed an optimistic view of the future. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. He prophesied a long time ago. And nation shall not lift up sword or weapon against nation, neither shall they learn the art of war any more. But it's not happening right now in Gaza. For scores of centuries, the Middle East has seen bloody conflict after bloody conflict. Many nations have fought in the deserts and hills of the Holy Land and the surrounding region. Some of these combatants have vanished into the mist of history. But today, two peoples again are pounding each other with heavy weapons. And there seems to be no end in sight. The battle in Gaza is very confusing. Each side blames the other. Neither shows any willingness yet to reach a ceasefire. So far, Israeli officials say they will continue their air and ground campaigns until Hamas stops firing rockets into southern Israel. And Hamas gives its answer in actions. Militants continue bombarding Israeli border towns with rockets. Israel's foreign minister insists the Jewish nation is not only defending its right to defend itself, but is fighting against extremism and terror. Palestinian casualties are measured in the hundreds. Far fewer Israelis have been killed or injured so far. And Israel has a tradition of freedom of the press. Israeli politicians are exposed daily to withering criticism, but Israeli authorities have barred foreign journalists from covering the Gaza warfare on the grounds that the situation is unsafe, and also that Hamas could theoretically be able to manipulate some of them and reinforce their bias against Israel. In New York, Human Rights Watch protested, declaring that the presence of foreign reporters could discourage abuse by warring parties and help save lives. The perplexing thing for Israelis is that Israel is now fighting a non-state actor, Hamas, backed by Iran and operating out of a sovereign no man's land or black hole, Gaza, from which Israel had previously withdrawn unilaterally. That occupation, removal of occupation, deterrence, tit-for-tat punishment, economic blockade, all these things have failed to stem the violence. The enemy welcomes extreme hardship and loss of life, martyrdom, and seemingly would welcome reoccupation, anything that highlights Gazans' human suffering, sells well in the Arab world and among human rights activists in the West. And the Palestinians themselves are divided. A Hamas spokesman made it clear that Hamas, not the Palestinian Authority, was the party that would decide on war or peace with Israel. The spokesman said the final word will be for the resistance movement and not the so-called legitimate leadership in Ramallah. Thus, a Gaza official has taken a verbal shot at the role of the Palestinian president, whose headquarters are in Ramallah and the West Bank. There have been mass protests against Israel in the Muslim countries and the Arab countries and in several European countries. both pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian New Yorkers have demonstrated in recent days. The Arab nations who have long sought peace with Israel, Egypt and Jordan, are in an awkward position. They believe that Hamas ultimately wants to overthrow their governments, yet they know that the warfare in Gaza has angered many of their citizens. So they are trying to work quietly to diffuse tensions and help bring a ceasefire. But they seem to be fighting an uphill battle. So then, the Middle East, as always, is a mess. Unless you glory in bloodshed, and some militants seem to, the prospects for the immediate future are very poor indeed. Heavy civilian casualties in Gaza. Israel has ignored mounting international calls for a ceasefire and said it won't stop its crippling 10-day assault until peace and tranquility are achieved somehow in southern Israeli towns in the line of Palestinian rocket fire. Israeli forces seized control of high-rise buildings and attacked smuggling tunnels and several mosques in a campaign against Hamas militants that is taking an increasing toll on civilians. Palestinian wounded are filling up the hospitals. Arab delegates met with the UN Security Council in New York on Monday, urging members to adopt a resolution calling for an immediate end to the Israeli attacks and a permanent ceasefire. At the same time, diplomats and European leaders are traveling to the region in an effort to stop Israel's expanding ground and air offensive. This is all, once again, creating more tension, more anger, more bad feelings around the world. In the first serious clash in an urban area, Israeli troops and Hamas militants fought a gun battle on the outskirts of the crowded Gaza city. Killed by friendly fire, the Israeli military said 3 soldiers were killed and 24 others wounded Monday evening by friendly fire. It said an errant Israeli tank shell hit their position outside Gaza City. Israel Radio reported a colonel who commanded an infantry brigade who was among the injured. Despite Israeli claims that casualties have been heavy among militants, no Hamas fighters were seen Monday by an Associated Press reporter at Shifa Hospital, the Gaza Strip's largest. Instead, the hospital was overwhelmed with civilians. The operation's ground phase, which began Saturday with a withering round of artillery fire, was, so they say, going according to plan. Israeli forces were sweeping through Palestinian rocket launching locations near the border. Gaza health officials so far have reported more than 550 Palestinian dead and approximately 2,500 wounded since Israel began the campaign 10 days ago, including 200 civilians. Yes, all these are more signs of the times. When you see Jerusalem encompassed with armies or surrounded by armies, know that the time is near. It's getting closer every day, day by day. And all this is connected to the end times transition days. There are many, many signs going on all around the world.